Next up, we are going to get into interesting comments made by A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, star wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, who was recently speaking to a group of youths at the Delaware County Juvenile Probation Office. And he got onto an interesting topic talking about NFL players and their various proclivities. Amongst them, he got into, NFL players. You can really extrapolate this to male pro athletes in general, I believe. Well, in the black dominated sports at least. But he got into their tendencies to objectify women physically. And he kind of went down a rabbit hole talking about a lot of different things. So this was interesting. It says AJ Brown says NFL players are prone to objectifying women, struggle with porn. AJ Brown is speaking about the perils of being a successful NFL player, especially when it comes to their relationships with women. A video of Brown speaking to a group of people, which the Toronto Sun reports were teens at the Delaware County Juvenile Probation offices in Pennsylvania, shows the wide receivers shedding light on how success can warp a player's mind. So I'm not going to read the quotes because I'm going to play the video. Brown also talked about porn and how it can affect one's brain. Again, not going to read the quotes. So yeah, I don't want to read the quotes. Brown added that his teammates and other players can sometimes objectify women. The NFL has seen its fair share of sexual assault allegations among its players. Most recently, Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker was accused of sexual misconduct by 6 different massage therapists. I don't know what's with these guys in these massage parlors.
Unbelievable.
With allegations including exposing his genitals and making unwanted physical contact. So here's AJ Brown talking about NFL players objectifying women and struggling with adult content. So let me blow this up. All right, here we go.
You got every little problem that you may have, whatever vice you have. You got a woman problem right now, get $100 million and see that problem. That problem gonna show up loud and clear. You see what I'm saying? Like, these people get in trouble right now, bro. And we may laugh at, but we don't even see the signs. The whole time though, but that's a problem. That's a problem. All right, I'm gonna give you an example. I ain't gonna give you no other name. But it's guys that's in the league getting in trouble with women. They got fetish with women. They doing little stuff. Because when you got all that type of money, dog, like, bro, that stuff shows up because now it's at your leisure. Now you can get any woman you want. You can pick and choose. You see what I'm saying? So it ain't all peaches and cream because, like, as men, I truly feel like as men, bro, we need to sit down. We need to talk more about, like, on some real time porn, right? And it's going to a whole nother level because, but what porn does to your brain, it desensitizes your brain. And so you may think like, hey man, she look good or whatever. No, you looking at her as an object, not as a human being. You see what I'm saying? But I see that shit all the time from my team. My teammates talk about stuff like from other players and all these other stuff. Well, that's real, dog. So like, just because you got all these blessings, all this money and all this shit, like that shit, bro, everything ain't peaches and cream. Because whatever problem that you may have deep down inside that you're not telling nobody about, get some bread, get some money, get whatever you desire. I promise you, that shit gonna show up, and you're not gonna be able to hide it because you can't, like, because when you get that bread though, who you are really comes out. I'm just gonna shoot you straight. So you got to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to be before you even get to that level. That's why you see these guys are getting in trouble doing this stuff. Like, but there ain't no accident, dog. Like, now if it's wrongfully accused, then that's different. So, but that's real though. So everything ain't peaches and cream.
So you got the cheese heavy.
Yeah, because
everything ain't peaches and cream.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So what did you think about that?
All facts. All facts. I appreciate AJ, letting us peer behind the curtain there to talking about, what these guys are struggling with, and it's the corn. And this was back when we were talking about, I don't know who that was. Maybe it was Jalen Green or Zion. When we were handling those situations when they were popping up in the news, and they were going for these older women, some of them corn actresses or OF peoples, And I was like, man, I really feel like these guys grew up watching these women, fantasized about them, and wanted to take that for a spin. Got to the league and figured that I can actually take her for a spin. And I think that's what goes on with those guys. And because what he said, of course, if you give somebody, $100 million, their true colors are going to show for sure. And if you give a corn addict $100 million, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that guy's going to be flying girls in. He's going to be, with the BBL models, the OFs. He's going to be doing all the above. Growing up, man. Watching the corn, bro. I had my favorites. Then I would grapple with the idea of, I can't actually do nothing with that. If I ever cross paths with that, because it's like, man, look at what she's doing. All right, you know what I'm saying? But nowadays when people are just one click away, and then you get these kids, tens of millions of dollars when they first hit the league. Now she's one DM away. And what you talk about, 20K, that's nothing. And he'll drop that because he's in a sick space because he's addicted to corn. So instead of paying attention to the girl at I don't know, KFC, or the person over here, the girl that you went to school with, when they finally get to that level where they can actually afford to play the games, they go for what they've been fetishizing over since they were preteens. So there's a big that's what I really think what was going on. AJ Brown confirms that for me, that these guys have problems, much like most men in America,
these days, yeah, for sure,
across the world.
Yep.
And to the point, man, these young dudes, I see them in the comment sections on TikTok and stuff like that, man. This stuff is very normalized with young people. I would argue some of these kids is in middle school and stuff, commenting about corn stuff, or it'll be something that's very adult centric. And you could tell about how they comment and how they talk or whatever. That's like, this is a young person that's in this adult ass conversation, but everybody's in on these conversations now because of how the internet is structured. So these young people are getting exposed at this stuff at a very young age. It's very accessible, and these people are going to grow up with complexes. So on a lower level, it'll materialize in its own way. And then when these guys get hundreds of millions of dollars, or tens of millions, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know what I'm saying? It'll materialize in another way. And that's why he said you'll see these dudes in the news for X, Y, and Z, because they're sex addicts.
Yeah.
So it's a sad state of affairs, man. But I'm glad that, as a young person himself, AJ, that is, he seemed to have his head in the right direction, and he can identify that so much so that he's calling it out to the other youths in there. And I'm pretty sure the overwhelming majority, if not all of them in that room, have a problem with that. It's a pandemic with that stuff.
It is. It is. It's an epidemic for real. It is.
And so by him being who he is and saying that to those young men, they needed to hear that. So I'm glad that he's in his right state of mind enough to speak against it and speak up, man, because this is a conversation that has gone a little too casual. It's gone a little too far. And some people don't see how it's taken over their lives. Mm-hmm. But what are your thoughts, man, on AJ Brown running around here saying that, hey, man, these guys in the league, with that money and stuff, the corn and them being sex addicts is taking
Yeah.
over their lives, man. What are your thoughts?
I think that what he said was all facts, but I also think he didn't even do the conversation enough justice for how widespread that issue is. Because he really probably could have went in even further with how, just how commonplace that problem is. And I agree with that. It is a problem. I think it was Zion. You were trying to remember who we were talking about.
Hmm.
I think we were talking about Zion Williamson. I think when as young men, when you get overexposed to that kind of questionable content, it creates a complex within you in which your default mechanism when it comes to women is objectification.
Hmm.
And when you grow into that, especially when you come into money, you essentially treat women like things that you buy at a store. I remember one time, one of the last times that we did talk about Zion, I equated his decision making when it comes to women to buying grocery items out of a grocery store. I think men in his position and a lot of the men whom AJ Brown were describing, they don't really look at women as human beings. They kind of look at them as giant walking vaginas. And
Crazy.
and they look at them as giant walking vaginas that they can just go to the store and buy. No different than you can go to Home Depot and buy a power drill. These individuals, they're human women, of course, but they're also accessory items that you can purchase if you can afford it. That's what it's become to a lot of these guys. And when you treat any sort of when your relationship to something becomes a matter of like commodification and goods and services and paying for it, there's a tendency for you to, if you don't have the appropriate amount of literacy, you will spend your hard-earned money and assets on something that depreciates in value over time. So financial literacy, for example,
Hmm.
if you don't have the appropriate amount of financial literacy, you may have the tendency to spend your money on things that depreciate in value over time instead of appreciate. So you'll have guys who spend their money on cars and jewelry and clothing and various other worldly materialistic possessions that don't appreciate over time. They depreciate. As soon as you pay for it, the value of it is no longer what it once was, almost instantaneously.
Hmm.
And a person who has a certain level of financial literacy knows the value in investing in things that appreciate in value over time. So you might buy land, property, houses, art, gold, things of that nature, because they appreciate in value. Now, that's not to say you don't spend your money on things like clothes and cars and jewelry from time to time. But when that is your emphasis in terms of the lion's share of what you spend your resources on, it denotes a certain amount of lack of financial literacy because you are literally investing in things that don't give you value.
Hmm.
And I think when it comes to a conversation like this and overexposure to corn, as you put it creates generations of men who have very low woman literacy. And when you have low woman literacy, what will you do? You will invest your time and your energy and money on women that depreciate in value over time. So instead of the woman who is well to do, who doesn't strip, who doesn't do OnlyFans, who doesn't do adult content or anything like that, Instagram models, instead of investing your time and energy in women who don't profit off of the modern sexual marketplace, you choose to indulge in the women who do profit in the sexual marketplace
Hmm.
because your female literacy rate is low. So you invest your time and your money and your assets in women who depreciate in value over time and don't appreciate in value over time. They don't add any value to you. All they can do is extract you for resources. But you don't know the difference because your female literacy rate is low due to the fact that you came up in tunnel vision and your only exposure to women for the most part before you came into your own as a man was exposing yourself to this very questionable content that desensitizes your brain to the notion that women are anything other than giant walking vaginas. And so when you, and this isn't just pro athletes, this is, I feel like, men in general nowadays.
Hmm.
Um, and so like when that is the environment, now you have several generations of men who aren't really contributing to the fabric of human civilization in very important, intricate ways, such as rearing children and raising households and families. So it gets into a onslaught of reverberating conversations that cascade upon one another based upon this very central theme of not knowing the right way to value woman and having the right kind of literacy when it comes to women. So I think it is correct. It's a larger societal issue. I
Mhm,
think it starts before you come into money. Obviously, that's
mhm,
when the complex is created,
mhm.
but it obviously is exacerbated when you come into money. And that's when you see guys like Zion, Jalen Green, Anthony Edwards, and you wonder how, in good faith, does a guy not learn from the first mistake or from the mistakes of others and just move differently when it comes to women? Well, they were completely desensitized to the idea that women are anything other than giant walking vaginas that they can pay for.
Correct.
So they just don't know any better. And when they don't know any better, they cannot make the right decisions when it comes to women. They're
Correct.
incapable of doing it. It's
Yes.
a form of atrophy that they have to deal with essentially for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate, but I kind of feel like that's something that men are dealing with nowadays. And I don't know if there's a fix for it.
Well, and that's why there's always a link towards, sexual immorality in the fall of societies, and uh, you know, men having access to this level of my thing was, man, was that how free it was
Yeah.
for decades. I mean, it's still free now, and some guys got so crazy now they paying hand over fist uh, to watch that stuff online now. I mean, it is ridiculous. But they were offering that stuff for free for decades now. And now we're starting to see what's going on with it. And we talk about here often the over sexualization of society at this point. When it comes to men and women. And I really feel as though that and everybody's in this umbrella. Now, men watch it more than women, I would say, percentage wise,
That's factual. Yeah.
per capital, per capita. You know what I'm saying? I really feel like men watch it more, but women still watch it. Women are exposed to that. Okay, and so much so, man, that the game has changed out here. And it was stuff, man, like when I was younger, bruh, like it was things that were off limits. You just she's not gonna do that, bruh. You can just forget about that. Now it's standard issues. As soon as you meet her, she down she's asking you to do it. So it's like, oh snap. You know what I'm saying? And so, it's been a progression. That spirit has gone over to everybody. It's had its own butterfly ripple effect on society. So a lot of people have been exposed to this, and a lot of people are desensitized to it. You know, and so I think both men and women um, need the wake up call. Uh, you know, for the people out there that are on the fence with it, that do it, that don't like the fact that they do it, or whatever. Y'all still have some hope. All right. There's people out there that are so far gone, man. You know what I'm saying? They're asking to be saran wrapped by their favorite OF model.
Bro,
You know?
there's the guy. We didn't cover this as a topic, but there's this one woman who's really popular on OnlyFans. I don't even
Mhm.
remember her name, but some guy, you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna look it up while you're talking because I'm pretty sure I can quickly find it.
Yeah,
But
okay.
but yeah, some guy was like tens of thousands of dollars deep annually on her OnlyFans. And I just don't understand it. Like that to me is incomprehensible. But I told you before, I had a friend in Tallahassee, a friend of mine. I told you this story. I
Hmm.
may have said it on the stream. I can't
Hmm.
remember.
Hmm.
But she's a bank teller at a bank. And she used to tell me how it was a very regular occurrence each week that a guy would show up disputing charges applied to his account, claiming that his account was hacked or charges were made without his consent or whatever. And so, they want to, they want to file or whatever you got to do to try and get your money back, fraudulent charges. You know how that stuff works with banks.
Mm-hmm.
And she, being one of the lead tellers, would investigate it, and she'd go into these guys' accounts, and she would see nothing but porn charges, OnlyFans. And this is just one individual I know who works for a bank. So you can probably extrapolate that to how many other instances, worldwide, nationwide, however you want to look at it. Like, this to me is a serious problem. And it's the availability of it. It's the ease of access. And, I'm definitely somebody who's, not like, I like freedom, but sometimes as I've gotten older, especially, I found myself asking, to what extent is ultimate freedom okay? Because certain things are just, I think it's proven that if you give humans enough runway and enough latitude, they will abuse things beyond the point where it's beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's proven. So it's just something to ponder, but I'm gonna look that up real quick because I do want to get that in here.
Yeah, and as AJ was saying, and there's studies out there on this as far as how it rewires your brain. And your synapses are firing the wrong way. And I brought up on here before, man, that I'll be in a grocery store, as an example, and I'm doing two kinds of shopping. You know what I'm saying? I'm going for the food items that I'm looking for, and I'm also looking for some game. So as I'm out there, there'll be a nice young lady, seemingly well-to-do, in the produce section of all places, just trying to live her life, clothed well. And I'm sitting there looking at her going, she's nice, but look at all that work. I ain't trying to talk to her. I want some instant gratification. Then I go over there with the dehydration aisle, where all the processed drinks that aren't even refrigerated. Okay, high fructose corn syrup everywhere. And there she goes, wearing scantily clad, and you know what I'm saying? Nothing underneath, And there I go asking her, what her number is. Because I see that as easy. Because what that thing has done, the corn has done, is that it has put me in an instant gratification state where I don't want to work for this. So let me find the one that ain't work, because I'm just trying to get gratified. And so that's how it reward. If I was like a little mouse in a little thing, and it's like, yep, yeah, look at him taking the low-hanging fruit. And that's what I did. Then I get in situations with him, and it's a problem. And then it's like, well, look how you met her. Look what she was doing. You know what I'm saying? You skipped the one in produce, the one that actually was going to make you work. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, okay, Lotto is in the dehydration aisle. Okay, she is not over there with the produce. All right, she needs to stop the cappery. But yeah, man, so it rewires your brain. I can speak to it because I had to take a self-assessment, man. You start to hit a crisis state where you're like, hey, man, what the hell am I doing out here? Yeah. And the main culprit was that goofy stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can blame the music and the other forms of media, which don't help. Okay. But that really is like a big elephant in the room in America that people really need to address. And it's not casual. You can't treat that like going to the gym. It's literally a 180 from that. But yeah, man, did you find
I did find it. And it's funny too. So her name is Sophie Rain.
Hysterical.
Sophie Rain is her name, and she made. Let's see here. It says OnlyFans model Sophie Rain recently revealed that she made over $50 million in profit with her
Disgusting.
content on the adult entertainment platform. She's only 20 years old, bro.
Oh wow.
This article was written February 26th of this year, so she's 20 years old. The creator, 20, took to X to share the news, posting a screenshot of her earning statistics statement. Halfway to $100 million, she posted. Now, let me get to the part. Here it is. Here. She noted that her highest paying benefactor is a man named Charles. Between November 2023 and November 2024, Charles sent Rain nearly $5 million.
Jeez.
Like
Louise.
now, granted, that is probably on an extreme end, but if that's the extreme end, imagine how much of it is on the reasonable end and how much of it is going on to that level. Like,
Jeez.
bro, like I kind of feel like, yeah, we have to deal with this. This to me is a crisis, personally. I, I
100.
believe I believe that this is a crisis. And it's so crazy too, because I never thought as a guy who's still single, this adds an extra complication to the whole single life living kind of thing. Because honest to God, the thought creeps into my mind whenever I see a woman, and fair or unfair, the thought creeps into my mind, especially given how she carries herself. I always, some not always, but sometimes I'll ask myself, I wonder if she does OnlyFans, because like the practice of it, the social stigma that was once attached to this has been eradicated almost, due to the current social construction of our country and the fact that it's become glamorized and normalized to do sex work. You hear these weird phrases like sex working is work. So like so nowadays I'll be wondering, like when I go to the gym or when I go to a bar or to a restaurant and I see like a woman, especially, kind of analyzing her outward appearance, how she dresses or whatever. Like sometimes I'll ask myself, like, I wonder if she does that kind of stuff. Because you can't rule it out, is my point. Like
Mhm.
these days you just can't rule it out. You don't know who amongst you is doing this weirdo stuff. And yeah, that was the example right there, Sophie Rain. And like, man, like the last thing that I'll say with this, living here in Florida, uh, they passed that whole age verification law. So like now, if you now you can still get around it, but they at least did that thing where they passed the age verification law, and you can't visit certain sites without presenting ID and having like your age housed on some server somewhere. And so, the idea behind that is it should deter, hopefully, at least a percentage of the people who consume this stuff on a regular basis, because no one wants their private information stored on some public server that can be accessed by anybody. So they did that in Florida. And so in response, a lot of the companies that create this content, they made it to where you can't access the website or whatever if you're in the state of Florida. Like it'll detect your IP address, and if it's in Florida, it blocks you or whatever. So you can't look at it. And a lot of people are fighting against it because it's like it's anti-freedom. But my whole thing is, yeah, it is anti-freedom. And I can't believe, I never thought that I'd be saying this, but my thing is, it's anti-freedom, but does that mean it's bad? Because like this is sort of contributing to the degradation of society.
I agree.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like intrinsically it is, I believe, in my opinion. And you look at a guy like Myron Gaines, for example, the fresh and fit guy. I largely kind of view him as an extremist at this point. He's a gas bag as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
one thing that he does say that I do agree with for the most part is he believes that the degradation of the nuclear family structure is contributing to a lot of the pitfalls of society. I agree with that. I
Mhm.
do largely agree with that. Now, do I think that the degradation of the nuclear family structure is causing a lot of the pitfalls of society? Maybe not, but do I think there's a correlation? Yes. I do think there's a correlation. And I think the more guys you got hooked on this stuff, the more we are straying away from that nuclear unit that is meant to ground us and keep us on the beaten path. And so I just think that it's an extra added element that's contributing to the downfall of all of the better parts of us. And I think if you don't get a wrangle around it, it's going to get worse. And so different things like this age verification law, yeah, it's anti-freedom, but to a certain extent, that might not be the worst thing in the world. So it is what it is, all in moderation, of course. But these are just some things that I've come to start to think about as a lot of this stuff becomes more and more pervasive. But I don't care what anybody says. No one is going to convince me that a world where a woman can be on OnlyFans and make 50 million bucks in a year is good. I'm sorry, it's not good. And like, if you have one guy paying this woman $5 million, how many other subscribers does she have paying her maybe not that much money, but hundreds, thousands?
Yeah, bro.
How much of your hard-earned money is going towards subscribing to this chick just because she exists? Like, this is a problem. It's a problem. I remember complaining about this stuff back in 2011 when it was just Instagram models. I was complaining. You were there. I was bitching about this stuff 14 years ago. I had an issue with the advent of Instagram models. I really did. Because of this. This is the reason why I had an issue with it. So we were getting hooked on it back then. And so now it's become full-blown interactive with stuff like OF and whatnot. So I don't know. I don't like it. I'm always going to rail against it. I hate it. I think guys should get off of this narcotic. But yeah, I think that it is definitely correlated to a lot of what we are witnessing when it comes to why we seem to be straying away from just, living a little more righteously.
Yeah, 1,000, man. So hey, y'all be safe out there. You know what I'm saying? Just monitor your behavior, man. Yeah, man, just rein it in on the comment section, and just a regular TikTok video. Rein it in on the likes. Rein it in on the website visits. Yeah, man, just taper yourself off, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like a heroin addiction, man. You know what I'm saying? People need that dopamine rush.
Yeah.
So me telling you to go cold turkey will be very unrealistic, I would assume. Okay, but just taper it off, man, and just see how your brain fires different. It literally does fire different once you purge yourself of all of that, man. So
Yeah.
it had to play for me. It came with age, bro. I was like, hey, 'cause, you watched enough of it.
Yeah.
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 And then and then it starts to get weird as new times are coming along. It's like, hey, I'm not into this.
Yeah.
So it was like things that was like helping me like not want to watch it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So whatever it is, man, just try to make your brain fire differently, more healthy. And yeah, man, you'll thank yourselves later, man. It is definitely an addiction that people don't like to talk about, or they sweep it under the rug, or like to make it so colloquial that it's not a big deal. I think it is a big deal, and getting it out of your life or greatly reducing it will definitely improve your life. I would say that.
Look, I had my light bulb moment. I remember one day. I remember the year that I did it. I think it was 2017. I just snapped. I was sitting at the gym one day and I was like, why am I following this woman? For what? Like, what value does following her bring me? None. It gives me no tangible benefit. Man, I got on my phone and I unfollowed every single Instagram model I was following, every single woman who's just on my feed showing me her body. I unfollowed all of it. And I have not looked back. I was all the better for it. You know, I mean, we just got to get off that narcotic. And statistically, it's far more men who are hooked on this drug than women.
Yes.
See, women get off easy in this regard because even a woman who is consuming this will still get offers for sex. So there's still an avenue for women to be able to touch and feel other humans, whereas men have to assert themselves to women. But when you sit in front of that computer or that tablet or your phone all day long, the one thing you're not doing is trying to meet women in the daylight. And that to me is a serious problem.
Bro, I'm telling you, there's a whole generation of pasty, unbathed, yeah, bro, Jergens ass kids out here. that aren't, because they're the ones that's really contributing to the fact that, because we hear all the numbers of the people that are like, like, I forgot what the stat was it was about, but the guys aren't even approaching women anymore.
Yes, yeah, and women are wondering. Some women, not all, but some women are wondering why that's happening. Like I'll watch certain things, and there will be women like, guys don't approach me anymore. This is different, guys don't. And the reason why is because those guys are addicted to corn. That's why.
Yeah,
That's
it's what
why.
it is. And they
Yeah,
can sit there and grandstand all they want. Read this, I'm white knighting that. You know what I'm saying? You can call me
no,
whatever you want, bro. Blue pill in it.
no.
I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you right now, if that stuff was eradicated from the internet, you'll see a whole different behavior set.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
or they
saying?
die,
Guys would,
or they would die off. One of the it would be one or the other.
or they'll get a little too creative because they little too sick. Hey man, y'all be safe, man. And so I'm talking to the people, not the extremists, man. I'm talking about the people that was on the fence, man. There's a way out, man. Get out of there. I agree with Sir AJ Brown here, man. And yeah, man, get up out of the woods, bro.
Yeah,
Because if it doesn't put you in a weird position right now, it might later. So just
yeah,
get that stuff out of your brain, bro. That stuff's not clean.
yeah. It really is. Like when you're using that stuff, there have been studies done on this, similar studies that were done on the effects of social media on the brain and why people become addicted to social media. It's
Mhm.
because when you're consuming that content, just like when you're on social media and people are commenting on your posts or liking you or following you, the brain is releasing a level of dopamines. Like the brain releases the chemical dopamine, and the manner in which this happens is very similar to the way that the brain releases dopamine when you are addicted to heroin. Like they've actually done the studies on this, and it's not that much different. So, like to me, this is a very big issue because there's less relationships, less marriages, less families, less interpersonal dynamics, less and less of this is going on because people are sequestering themselves into their silos and just deciding that the easy way out is to consume this stuff. Like it's a real serious issue.
Yeah, or
No,
get you a super fast woman, and that ain't the answer either. But
it's not.
the only reason why you're doing that is because, at least that's for me. That's what I was doing.
Yeah,
So yeah, man, just tighten up out there, y'all. I know it. The more responsible thing ain't the easiest thing to do, man. But because none of this is grandstanding. It's like, bruh, stop, get some help. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause
hey,
it's crazy out here.
shouts out to AJ Brown, man. I'm with him. I'm with him on this, and yeah, this has got to stop. It really does. But I think that it is absolutely abhorrent to see some of the statistics on his OnlyFans.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and,
powerful.
and yeah, it's disgusting.